In this demonstration, we're imagining that our client has got an existing tray from another supplier or from a different CAD system, and it's a simple single-walled tray with 4 cavities, and our client would like to go to a double-walled tray solution and with a greater cavitation and a different design. So we're going to go through the process of not having to recreate the cavity geometry, but to make use of the geometry that we receive. So we'll start with a new file. Start a new scene in IronCAD, and to begin with, we're going to import the tray that we've received from our client. And so we're going to ensure that we're in structured mode. Remember, in IronCAD we've got innovative mode or structured mode, and we want to import this geometry into a structured part. And so I don't have to create a part. I'm just going to go home, import geometry. So this is different to import part. This is importing or inserting an IronCAD part into the scene. Here I'm importing geometry. In this case it's a step file. So this is what I'm importing into my scene. And what IronCAD will do will create a new structured part here, and in the scene browser it shows a BREP, a boundary representation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn off my coordinate system. And so there's no intelligence to this, so I'm just going to give it a name, and we'll call it imported body. Now the only thing that I'm interested about this tray is just one cavity, and so we'll choose this cavity here as an example. So with this the imported body selected, I'm going to turn on the tribal, and I'm going to reposition this tribal to the center of this cavity. So pressing the space bar, so that detaches the tribal for moving purposes, and I'm going to lock this axis here, and then right click on the handle and go point to point. So I want it the center between this point here and this point here. And now also in this direction here, I want from this point here to, well, wrong one, point to point. So point to point from this point here to here. And actually I also want this tribal to be on this top face, so two face point here. So that's where I want my tribal to be positioned here. So I'm going to press the space bar again. And the reason I want to do this is because I want to move this cavity into the origin of this part, so 0, 0. So right clicking on the center of the tribal, edit position, and we'll go 0, 0. So now I don't care about all the rest of the geometry, I'm only interested in this area here. So now I'm going to create a make sure this is set to active, and I'm going to create a sketch. And so go to our 2D sketch tools, and we're going to we'll select our plane, which I want to be this plane here, and I'm okay with the origin. Okay. And now what I want to do is just to project the geometry from this existing tray. So using our project constraint, now there are two options here, project and project constraint. I actually want this to be constrained to the tray underneath, and so I'm just going to select the surface. And what it's done is it's selected a whole bunch of connected lines. They're all green because they're constrained, but I don't need these outside lines, so I'm just going to do a double click on this outside line here. So not too fast, not too slow, and then delete. And I'm going to do the same for these lines. One, double click, delete, double click, delete, double click, delete. So that just leaves me with this geometry here, and I'll go OK. So using this sketch, and we'll call this sketch, we'll give it a name cavity, we're going to create and extrude a body, and this body is going to fill up this cavity starting from this outside boundary, and it's going to extrude down to this bottom face here. So to do that, we're going to right click on our sketch in the properties browser, create and extrude. Now at the moment it's by default it's extruding upwards, so I'm going to reverse the direction, and it's extruding down a set distance of 50 millimeters, and I don't want that. I'm going to select it up to faces, and now I need to basically reference a face, and so I'm going to select the bottom face here. But what it's done is it's told IronCAD that I want you to extrude down until you meet all of these faces inside that cavity. And then down in the general options on the properties panel on the right, I do not want to apply this extrude to the existing body. I want this to be a self-contained body, a second body. So we'll deselect that and we'll go OK. And we'll give this a name. We'll call this cavity. And you'll see in our bodies now we've got two bodies. We've got the original tray and we've got the cavity body that we've just created. And I don't need this original body anymore, so having that selected, I'm going to right click on it and go delete body, and then OK. And again I'll just, this was our import body, deleted. And so what we've got left with here is just this single body here, which we're going to use for our other part. So I'm just going to save this file, and that's okay. And we're going to create a new scene now for our new tray. So again, we've got structured parts. Make sure that we're in structured part mode. Create new part. And the first thing that we want to do is to we'll give it a name. So we'll call this double wall tray. And I want to add the body that we've just created. So to begin with, I need to insert the file that we've just created. So we'll bring this file in. I'll turn off my coordinate system. Now this has come in at the origin of the scene, which happens to be the origin of this new part, and that's what I want, because I want to copy the body from this part into my new structured part. Now my new structured part is activated. That's important. So when I use my I'm going to use the copy body tool here, and what it means is that whatever body I select in the scene now is going to be copied into this activated structured part. So at the moment this part has got nothing in it. It's just empty. It's got a coordinate system, it's got an origin. But I'm going to go copy body, and I'm just going to select this body. Now this body isn't part of that part, it's part of the other part that we've brought in. So I'll select it, and you see in the properties panel on the right, that's what's been selected, and I'll select OK. Now what's been happened is that this body has been copied now into my new part, and I don't need this one here anymore in my scene, so I'm going to delete it. Edit, delete. So here I've got my part. I'll just change its color, let's say cyan, and this, we'll give this a name, cavity body. Now this part that we're creating is going to be a multi-body part. So we've got body number 1 here. So just to help you recognize, I'm just going to put in these angle brackets the body that it belongs to. So I've got this cavity. Now I want to define a cavity area similar to our other demonstration, but instead of creating a sketch, I'm going to just drop in an Intellishape from our catalog. So going to our shapes, and I'm going to take our extrude here and just drop it into the scene. And I'm going to position this, turn on the tripod, and position this at 0, 0. So I haven't actually locked this to anything yet, but I could. So I can go to the sketch, underlying sketch of this block, right click on it and edit the position, and now constrain it inside the part itself. And so I could say I want that sketch of that block to be constrained to this plane, and I want the origin to be constrained to the origin as well. So, and I'm happy with that. And we want this block to be, let's say 10 millimeters, and we're going to give this some dimensions now. So we've got choice of whether we right click or left click on these handles, and so if you left click, it'll expand symmetrically. So I'm doing that, and I'm giving it a length. So same again, right clicking on the handle and 220. And I'll give this a name in our properties browser. We'll call this our tray cavity area. Right. And now we're going to pattern our body on this area. So we're going to use in our features, we're going to use our pattern tool here. And amongst our options, we're going to use the fill pattern option. And our feature is going to be that original body. And I'm going to set a distance of 70 mils in 2 directions. And I'm going to select the boundary as being this face here. Now what it's waiting for is an axis, and I'm going to use, just going to orientate the model here, this leading edge here, which is parallel to X, and that's just to be consistent so I know where I'm working. So I've selected that edge. Right. 1, 2, 3, 70. Well expressed. Okay. What I forgot to do is this fill pattern will only work when the feature that I'm patterning is within the same body as the plane, the face that I've selected. And so if we look at our bodies in the scene browser, you see there's 2 bodies. So when I dropped this in here, I forgot a step. I needed to add this to the body that was already in place. So I'm going to right click on it, edit feature options, and down the bottom here I'm going to add to, and I'm going to select the bodies I want to add it to. I want to add it to this body here. Then go OK. So now I've got one body in the scene, and so we'll try our pattern feature again. And so our features is this, and our boundary area is this, and our axis was this edge here. That's better. So I'll get a nice preview of what's going to happen, and I'll accept that. Right, so I haven't created any geometry. All I've done is utilized the body that I copied from the imported geometry, and I've applied a pattern to it. We'll give this a name, tray cavity area pattern. And now I'm going to apply a couple of chamfers to this. So we'll put a chamfer, 20mm chamfer on this corner here, and then on this corner here. Accept that. And again, we'll give it a name. And tray cavity area chamfer, and I'll put the value in the name there as well, just to help us recognize it. And now I'm going to extrude a different body. So this is the body that we're going to use for subtracting from the body of our tray. So we need to actually add now a body to our part that's going to represent the tray body itself. So we'll use our extrude Intellishape again, and again I'm just going to drop it into the scene here, and I'm going to apply it to the origin, and I'm going to extrude it in the opposite direction. So I'm going to right click on the shape in the properties browser and just go flip direction, and I'm going to use the handles here and just drag that down. Just drag it, and I'm going to give it a value of 60. And what I want to do is I want the shape of this body to be relative to this cavity area. So I'm going to go into the shape or the sketch of this shape, and I might just lock it first. This isn't absolutely necessary, but I'm going to lock it to that geometry there, and my origin, and my X direction. I'm just going to flip this for consistency, X, Y, and then I'm going to edit the sketch itself. So I've just edited the position, and now I'm going to edit the geometry inside the sketch. So edit, and I'll just flip this around. I'm going to delete the existing geometry, and I'm going to use our project constraint tool again and just select this back face. And so I've got a series of lines here. I'll hide the part so you can see. Now I want an offset of 30mm all the way around. So I'm going to double click, again not too fast, not too slow. So they're all highlighted, offset, and on the right I'm going to type in the value of 30, and the direction is suitable. I wanted it on the outside, and I want it to add the offset constraint, which is the dimension. So I'm happy with that, accept. So here's my dimension, 30, but I don't want this here to be I want this to be construction geometry only. So with that one of them selected, I'm going to select use as construction, because what I want to do is extrude a solid block here. I don't want to just extrude a boundary. Right. And good. And so what it's done is it's created the second body, which is what I want. So I mentioned at the start, this is a multi-bodied part, and so we'll give this a name, and we'll call this our tray body. Right. So what I want to do now is to subtract our cavity area here from the body, but before doing so, I'm going to I'll do this first and then demonstrate something else. So I'm going to use the Boolean subtract. So subtraction, the main body is the body of the tray, and the tool for subtraction is this body here. We'll go okay. So that's all good, but I actually wanted to have a boundary around the top 10 mils higher. So I'm just going to go back to my extrude here and right click on it and go to edit feature options, And at the moment I've got a 60mm extrusion value going downwards, and so I'm going to select direction 2 here. There's a little arrow, expand it, and I just want to go 10mm up as well. There we go. That's what I wanted. And so again, we'll give this our name, tray body. And the next step is I want there to be a base so to my tray, and so I'm going to create an extrude cut now from the top face here downwards. And so going to Intellishapes, instead of dragging extrude, I'm going to drag in an extrude cut, and I'm just going to drag that onto this top face, and I'm going to move it, right clicking here to, actually I'll just lock that face in the center, right click, edit position 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to edit the sketch of this underlying block. So right click, edit, and I'm going to display the geometry. So on the panels, probably panel on the right, display all, and I want to project this outline. So project all that geometry, and I'm going to double click slowly and do my offset again. So offset, but this time I want a value of 10, and go OK. And this time I want the outside, the original one, to be construction. So I've selected it, and in the properties panel, use as construction. So I'll just hide the geometry, so you can see that's the original projected lines, and this is the offset on the inside of it. So I exit my sketch, and you can see that what it's done is it's cutting out the center. But there's an option with our extrude cuts where we can instruct IronCAD to extrude the outside, or the outside cut. So in my panel here on the right, I'm just going to check outside cut. Right, and so what it's done is it's extruded now the outside of that line that I've created. Now regarding the depth, what I want it to do is I want the depth of this cut to match the depth of my cavity here. So I'm going to do go back to my extrusion here and my edit feature, and so whereas I've got a distance here of 27mm at the moment, I'm going to select up to surface. So there's a particular surface that I want to, and I'm going to choose the original cavity here and that bottom face of the cavity. So what I'm saying is that I want that outside cut to match that bottom face, and we'll go OK. Good, I'm happy with that, and so we'll give it a name. So again, tray body, just to help keep track of it, and we're going to apply some draft now on the inside. So I want a 10mm draft on these faces here. So draft faces, my neutral plane is this top face of my cavities, and the faces I want to draft at 10 degrees are these ones. Now if you want it to draft the other way, you just put a negative value, say -10, to control which way it's going to draft. And go OK. Again, I'll give it a name. So tray body draft 10, and I'm going to do the same for these outside faces here. So draft, and again, and this time I'm going to draft it from the top face. So that's going to be my neutral plane. So I select the top neutral plane, and the faces I want to draft, but this time at 5 degrees. So this one, this one, this one, here, here, and here, and accept. And we'll name it tray body draft 5 degrees. Right, let's get a little bit nervous here. I'm just going to push save. And we'll move on, and I'm going to do a reference sketch. So what I want to do is I want to put some cutouts down this side, and the first cutout that I put, I want it always to be in the middle of the tray. So not the middle of this edge, because this edge is offset. So I'm going to create a sketch here that is going to be associated with this top surface, and that I can then lock my cutout to. So let's create a sketch, and I'm going to position the sketch. So here on the right here, a plane or face, I want it to be locked to this top face, and the origin point is what I want of the part, so that's good. And I'm just going to flip this Y direction here. Again, that's a preference thing, and OK. So my sketch is positioned, and it's automatically taken me into the sketch editing mode here. And so I want to project, constrain, and this is important. It must be constrained, these edges here. Now I don't want the chamfered edges, so just these edges. So I'll select the tool again to deselect it, or I could push escape. And now I'm just going to select in the sketch in behind so I can hide this geometry. So I'm just going to hide it. And what I want to do is connect up these. And so I can drag the points, but I'm just going to use the extend tool up in the ribbon and select that one there. So now I've got this rectangle where it's constrained to the edges, and I'm going to be able to snap to the middle of these lines. So that's the object of this. So finish my sketch, and you can see my sketch here now sitting on top. So what that means is that as that model changes, that sketch is going to follow as well. So we'll give this a name, and we'll call this our side wall top edge. And now I'm going to add the cutout that I want. I'm going to keep it simple, and so I'm going to do a cylinder cut, and I'm just going to drop it randomly on this face here. And it's by default it's come in as a 40mm diameter cylinder, and I'm going to change that to 20. And now I'm going to edit the position of this. And so what we're doing is, in structured part modeling, is that the positioning we control by the position of the underlying sketch. And so here I'm going to right click on the underlying sketch and go edit position. And it's showing me at the moment that this is positioned on a plane or face. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it to be normal to that face that it was on. And the reason is that I want my cutout to be parallel to that face. So whatever that draft angle is applied to that face, I want this cutout to follow it and to remain parallel to it. So that's the first part. But now I want to define the center of this sketch so that it follows this sketch that I've put in place. So selecting on the origin here in my properties panel on the right, selecting the origin point, I'm going to find the midpoint of my sketch. I'm just going to run along here, and there it is there. Now there's two midpoints that I could have potentially selected. So there's one here, and if I just carried on a little bit more, somewhere in here. There's another one, and so that's the midpoint of the geometry itself. And you can see that the geometry line is highlighted as green, and with the length shown. So I do not want that. So going back, when it hits this one, it doesn't, the edge itself doesn't highlight. So I know now that this is the sketch that I've selected. So I'm going to select this midpoint, and so now this sketch, I'm telling IronCAD, I want you to be normal or perpendicular to this face, and I want you to follow the midpoint of the sketch. Now this is important. In the properties panel down the bottom, must make sure that fix to reference is selected. So again, I'm telling IronCAD that even though I've positioned you here, I want you to follow that point. And we'll go OK. And so I've got it in the right position, and by default IronCAD's extruding upwards here, and I'm going to go to my feature options for that extrude, and so in that direction I just want it to extrude through all. So whatever the height is above it, I want you to carry on extruding. Now however, in the opposite direction, which is direction 2, I want you to extrude down to, or up to, surface. And I'm going to select this bottom surface here. Now this isn't just a distance that I've told IronCAD to do. Now this is at an angle. This is 5 degrees or 85 degrees here. So the bottom of this extrude is matching the face that I selected. And so again, that's what I wanted. So regardless of what draft angle I put on this face, it's going to stay parallel, and yet that bottom face is always going to remain flush with that bottom face. So that's the reason for doing that. Now we'll give it a name, side wall cutout. Now just to test, so if I change the geometry of this here, this cutout should follow. So I'm going to go to my tray area here and just change the length in this direction to 360. Good. So the geometry changed, my patterns changed, my sketch, which is associated to that top surface, that moved, and my cutout, which is also associated to that sketch, has moved. So everything's working as it should so far. So I'll go back, and so I'm just going to keep this tray nice and small for modeling purposes, just so that the computer's not working so hard. So now I'm going to apply a blend down here. So we'll use our blend tool, blend edges, and I want to apply a 4mm blend to these verticals, one here and one here. And again, we'll give this a name, side wall cutout blend, and there's a 4mm radius. Now the reason for putting that blend is that I now want to pattern this cutout with the blends together. So we're going to use our pattern tool, and we're going to use the edge pattern. So amongst our options, we're going to select our edge pattern, and I'm going to select the features that I want to pattern, which is the cutout and that blend. Now I'm going to select an edge, and I could select this edge here or whatever, but I'm going to select this top edge here. And what IronCAD's looking at here is saying, well, you want an offset of a distance of say 10. Well, I don't, I actually want 40. And it thinks that I want 4. I don't, I actually want to use this option here, distance spaced. And I want the end point I don't want to be my pattern to be along the edge. I want it to be offset from that edge. So I'm going to select this offset edge option down here, and I don't want to use the edge for where it starts and finishes. So I'm going to deselect that. I actually want to use that first cutout. And now also in the direction wise, I actually want this pattern to go the opposite direction. So I'm just going to reverse the direction. You can see the arrows change now. So in that edge, I was just wanting to select a direction. And now I want to control how closely my cutout gets to the edge. I don't want it to this edge here, this point. I don't want it to be any closer than 40. Right, so IronCAD knows that for this size of tray, I can only put in this one. Now in this pattern as well, I don't want to actually pattern the original. So in my skip nodes here, I'm just going to deselect or select skip root. So the root cutout, I don't want to pattern. So the end result is I'm only going to have one pattern showing here. So we'll go OK. Right. And I'll give this a name, so we'll call it our sidewall cutout pattern, and I'm going to call this pattern 1 because I'm going to repeat it again but going in the opposite direction. So again, pattern, edge tool, features, I'm selecting the original features here. The edge, I'm going to select the same edge down the bottom. Now it's remembered the previous settings here, so I just need to have it direction wise. I actually want it going that way, and instead of an offset of 40 mils from the end, I need more, so I'm going to put 70 here, and the rest is fine. So again, we'll just name our feature. So I've got our two patterns here, and then I'm going to add the remaining blends that we want. Now, the reason for doing this is that regardless of the size of this tray, I want this to automatically adjust. So again, I'll go to my cavity area here, and I'm going to change this to, let's say, 360. It resizes, and IronCAD is going to maintain or recalculate what it can fit in within the constraints that I gave it. So that's the reason for doing it the way we have, because we want our model to have some form of intelligence. And so we'll change this back to 220 again, just so it's not so taxing on the computer, and add the blends that we want. So I want to add some blends in here. So 20 mil to start with. Select that edge. Select that edge. And yep. So tray body blend. And now I want some 10 mil blends in here. So 10 mil, select my geometry, which is this edge here, and I want this edge, there. And OK. Control copy, Control V. And next one is a 40 mil on the outsides here. And so let's blend edges and 40 mil, and I want this edge here, this edge here, this edge here, this edge here. And now we want a 2mm blend on the inside bottom there and on the outside. So blend 2, and because these are all tangent, that's going to just require the one click, and the same with here. So the order in which you do the blends is important, just to minimize the amount of clicking. So I tried to make sure that I had tangents results. So that's that one. And again, that was 2mm. And now the same for our 4mm. So 4mm, and this top edge here, again, is tangent, and this top edge here, and that's all that I require. So enable feature 4. Right, all that's required now is to shell the part. So I want a 2mm wall thickness. Now within IronCAD, we can individually apply wall thickness to different faces, but to keep things simple, I'm just going to apply a single 2mm to all of the faces. And the only face that I want to be open is this bottom face, nothing else. And I'll go OK. And so IronCAD has shelled our part, and if all of our blends are correct, everything should be nice. Now I want this here to be 2mm. Now the reason I had this extrude down to the inside bottom face of this cavity is because I'm now going to drag this extrude here, which was our tray body. I'm just going to extrude, just drag this handle up to the underside of that same cavity, just to there, to set the height. And you can see now that it's perfectly got my 2mm there as well. Now I could have done it another way, but that's just the simplest way to do it. So I've completed the part, and we'll just again make sure it's named tray body. And I can see some 2D sketches in here which I don't need to see anymore. Now I can select it and right click and go hide, so hide selected, or I can select the part level and right click and go hide elements and hide all profiles. So if there were lots of 2D profiles in here that were visible, then this is how you could hide them all at once. Now what happens that automatically is that if a 2D sketch has been used for creating an extrude, then IronCAD will automatically hide it after that. But because this 2D sketch was used for referencing, for locking purposes, that's the reason it was still visible. So I'm finished designing, so select the part, right click and deactivate all. And now I can test it's the tray cavity area, that's the critical one, so I can adjust this to my heart's content and see. I'm just going to select some random distances here, and you see it's not very efficient. I know that if I set this to 360, then I'm going to get a nice efficient pattern. I know that if I set this as 500, again, it's going to be nice and efficient. And same in this direction as well. So I'll pick a non-efficient value, say 340, and we'll have some extra room on the sides. Okay, but if I just go a little bit wider, so not the tray body, this one here, and change this to 360, then there'll be enough room for IronCAD to put the extra cavities required. There we go. So mission accomplished. So our original cavity was from that imported geometry. We have used patterned it using our area fill pattern tool, and we've used our linear pattern tool, so that will pattern what we want regardless of the size of the tray, and there are other options as well, but hopefully that's clear.